Hello, fellow truckers, and welcome back to American Truck Simulator. I was originally planning on trying to hang out in Texas for a while, but we had this amazing, almost $100,000 load show up, heading from Dallas, Texas to Page, Arizona. It's an all-terrain crane, and yeah, that was too much money to pass up. To stay in the east. So we'll head out to Page, and then hopefully we can grab a couple loads or even another big load coming back out this way. But for today, we're just going to go ahead and roll with what we have now. We were able to fully upgrade our truck. I mean, fully upgrade. Obviously, we'd like to do a little bit more in the way of some customization and stuff like that. But as far as powertrain and the chassis and all that stuff, we were able. The last load gave us enough money to where we were pretty much able to upgrade everything we need to upgrade. Oops, I was not paying attention. That's fine. We'll be able to get it around. All right. I'll try to pay a little bit more attention to that. Let's swing this out a little bit wider this time so that that doesn't happen again on the way out. We were able to upgrade all of our powertrain related stuff and chassis and everything. We even got the nice, awesome extended sleeper and all that. So we should be good as far as our truck being able to handle this load. It should have plenty of power. We have the most powerful engine. We have an 18-speed transmission, so should have every gear we need to climb hills with this heavy, ridiculous load behind us like that. So I think we're going to be just fine. Now, as we do with every episode, we're going to split the trip up into multiple segments, multiple episodes, because once we start getting into these longer trips, it goes way past my 30-minute time limit for being able to sit down and do a recording. So we'll probably get, I don't know, we'll probably split this one up into, it depends on how much time it takes us to, it depends, I'm sorry, I have a thought in my head, but my brain has already moved on to the next thing and my mouth hasn't caught up yet. In the last trip, we did 3 episodes over 1,500 miles. That gave us about 500 miles per episode. In this one, if we can get 500 to 600 miles done in an episode, then maybe we can get this done in just 2, but it just kind of depends on the route and how often we have to slow down, and if we're going to be on the freeway, how long we're going to be on freeways and stuff like that. So this will probably be 3 episodes. We'll probably make these relatively short by comparison, because let's pump it up to 1,200 miles just to make it a nice even number. If we do 400 miles an episode, that'll get us to 1,200 miles for 3 episodes. I think that's probably pretty reasonable. So yeah, I think that's what we're probably going to end up doing. Get our speedometer as our primary thing, because our dash resets every time we do a modification to our truck. So there's that. Speed limit right now is 55, so let me get that cruise control up there. We got a little bit of a crazy twisty turn setup coming up here to get back onto the freeway. So we're going to have to be a little bit careful with our turns here. We're going to have to make sure we take them ultra wide so that we don't... I was just trying to watch that. There was no... I mean, I would have had to go... I would have had to have gone off the road to have avoided that. We're going to take this super, super wide so that we don't get stuck on the track.
Turn right.
I'm going to stay on this lane, actually, just to make sure. I can see in the front right nose mirror there that we had plenty of space for that. So, again, we'll take a nice extra wide turn, make sure we don't hit this mailbox here. Keep an eye in the mirror. Seems like we're good. All right. Yeah, once we get on the freeway... Oh, is this backed up traffic? What is all this?
Use the left lane to stay on the current road.
Alright, so we need to get over, I think. And I'm just going to nose my way in. Sorry, guys, but we got places to be. And if I don't force my way over, none of you guys are gonna... Don't stop! Thanks. That car stopped while the freaking thing was... God. So now we're stuck here. Now we're stuck here waiting for the light because a car decided to stop at the exact wrong moment. And then because we have all this extra weight, there was no way for me to start getting the acceleration going again, start getting our momentum going again. Mother. All right. That's annoying. Awesome. That gives us an overall... That gives us a high-level view down in the dash infotainment, and then we get the easy to read or easy to see street-level view so that we don't miss turns and stuff. I would actually get rid of the overlay if I could find a mod that didn't give me the ETA to the destination. It gave me the estimated distance to the destination. Like, I don't care about the number of hours it's going to take me to get there. I want to see how many miles I have left on the trip. That's what I'm worried about. You know, the ETA is nice and everything, but it's very hard to plan a trip when you don't know how many miles you've traveled. So, I don't know why. I looked at a bunch of different GPS mods and GPS options, and none of them do the distance like it does here in the actual route advisor, which is pretty frustrating. I don't know why why that cannot be displayed on the infotainment version down there in the dash. Like, if I could just swap out that time down there with the number of miles left, that would be perfect. I wouldn't need the route advisor up there anymore, but there's just no way to do that. I mean, you know, you could always just pop it up and pop it back off, but there's just no way to turn the... Yeah, because it cycles through, so you have to hit it a bunch of times, and that's annoying. I don't know. I'm pretty particular about the way I want things to work, so that's more about me than it is about the game. It is what it is. And of course, because we have this incredibly heavy load, we're going to end up having to stop at pretty much every way station, I would imagine. So let's start slowing down here. We'll get an external shot of the process. Wait. I'm confused. Oh, was that the way station? Oops. Well, I have penalties turned off, so we won't get penalized for that. The way that it looked, it just confused me. Sorry. I would have stopped for that. I was going to stop for it, but I got confused. So, in the real world, we'd be getting a ticket right now, but you know, I'm not really interested in ultra realism. That's not fun for me. So that's fine. We'll get back up to speed. We got penalized by having to slow down, so that's enough. That's enough. There were no other trucks there anyway, so whatever. It is what it is. Alright, so we need to exit right here, get on the 20, and then that's going to take us to another freeway. That's going to head a little bit further north. I do believe that there were several, there's several, we're going to head west on the 20, and then north on another freeway, and then probably west on the 40 once we get up there. I think that was the route that the overall thing was telling me when I was looking at the job. But I don't know. It's been a while. We're gonna try to get down to at least 600 miles today. It just depends on if we're able to stay on the freeway for the most part, and it's gonna depend on how many times we run through towns that slow our speed limit down. It's gonna depend on if this truck is strong enough to get the speed up to, you know, 75, 80 miles an hour once we get out to those speeds. This is a pretty heavy load, so, you know, there is no guarantee that we're going to be able to actually get that. We can take a look at it real quick. Other way. I'm a big fan of these big loads like this that have, like, the crazy Jeep and truck and all that stuff on the back. I don't know, it's impressive to look at it. I like some of the other ones where you have, I've seen some videos of ones where it has like even longer versions of this kind of a setup here and has like crazy weights, and you know, they have to have, I mean, I don't want to do that in the game because it's boring to me having to wait for the escorts and stuff, but the idea of moving something that big is pretty cool. But in this, especially in this, I don't know, I mean, this game kind of streamlines that process, but in Euro Truck Simulator and in American Truck Simulator, as cool as it is to have those really big, crazy, extra wide loads, having to sit and wait for the escorts all the time is just really irritating, and I just don't want to do it. So I typically tend to avoid those particular jobs. They're just not fun for me. I want to be moving. I want to be making progress. I want to be covering some distance, and it's not fun when you're constantly having to stop and wait for an escort to, you know, get in front of you and do all that stuff. Like, that's not fun. That's just not fun. So we're hopping onto a new freeway here. It looks like it's the 35 West. So Speed limit here is 60 miles an hour. That's great because we're in Abilene, I guess. Are we in Abilene or no, we're in Fort Worth. Ha, the 35, duh. I know the 35. I lived off the 35 for a couple of years. I lived in a place called White Settlement for 2 years of my life. So yeah, I'm familiar with the 35. I believe it loops around. It's not represented here in the map because obviously they're not going for super realism, but the 35, I believe, loops around. It loops around, I think it loops all the way around Dallas, and Fort Worth is along that road somehow. I don't remember exactly how it's set up. It's like I said, it's been a long time since I lived there, so I'm not exactly remembering it properly. But yeah, I remember the 35. I used to drive up the 35 to the, what was the airport up there? Because I went to a flight school there. I was working on getting my commercial pilot's license. I got all the way through private pilot training, and I was about 10 hours into my instrument rating when, life kind of got in the way and I had to give up on it. I believe we're supposed to get off here. Yeah, there was a flight, it was a county college, I can't remember. Tarrant County College. And then there was a flight school that was working with the college to make it workable with the GI Bill. I was using my GI Bill to do it. I can't remember the name of the flight school that... I don't remember if it was a flight school. I think it was just Tarrant County College. Excuse me. And they had a flight training program that you got college credit for, which is why you could use the GI Bill for it. So I got my private pilot certificate paid for with my GI Bill, and I was working on getting my instrument rating, but then I ended up having to give up on it. Honestly, I think that was probably the biggest... I don't know. Like, your life ripples out in front of you, and different decisions that you make affect things. I think, regardless of the fact that I am now married to my wife as a result of that decision, from having come back to San Diego for the various reasons that I did, that's a good thing. But at the same time, I would be a pilot right now if I had been able to stick with it and I had just decided to not make the decisions that I made. The decisions that I made for good reasons at the time. Those decisions didn't work out in the way that I was hoping they would at the time. And I am, it's a big disappointment in my life that I didn't end up, finishing the pilot training and going and doing that and making that my career. But, woulda, shoulda, coulda. There's nothing I can do. I can't go back in time and fix it or anything. So this is where we are. So hopefully I can make this YouTube thing happen, and I can make enough money that I can just afford to fly on my own, and then we can do it that way. We'll see. We'll see. I have to say, though, my dream plane is probably one of the weirder ones. My dream plane is the Grumman Albatross. I am a big fan of that particular seaplane. I don't know why. But my favorite versions of things are always the weird. I don't say always the weird ones, but like my favorite sailboat is the Sea Runner Trimaran. The 34-footer is a really cool version. I'd like to have the 40-footer. The 40-footer is obviously much bigger and gives you much more space and stuff. Obviously, if I could get a 40-foot Sea Runner Trimaran, that would be really nice. If you're not familiar with that particular, okay, we'll talk about a couple of things. It gives us something to talk about while we're driving down the road. We'll talk about the Sea Runner Trimaran first, and then we'll go back and talk about the Grumman Albatross, because I know most of you watching probably have no idea what that is or what either of those things are. And when it comes to sailboats, there are three major kinds of sailboats that you can get. Obviously, the regular sailboat has one hull. Basically, it has one bow and one stern, and it just has one piece that goes into the water. It's the traditional boats. It's the most common kind, and it's the traditional version of boats that you've seen out in like pictures and stuff like that. Thank you very much for just sitting in my way and taking your sweet time. So if you see a painting of a boat, like the old wooden style sailing ships, those were all single hull vessels. Those were all single hull vessels. I don't think that there's a specific. I don't remember if there's a specific term for that. I don't know why it's not coming to me if there is. But anyways, that's one kind. That's the main and most common kind. You also have catamarans, which basically is like two little mini sailboats next to each other, connected by a superstructure, which is basically like a platform in between the two little hulls. And the reason why those are popular is because it gives you a lot of really good living space in the boat. So like you'll see a lot of charter boats that have catamarans as their... We're going to continue going at 65 to get past this guy, because he is continually adjusting his speed in a way that prevents me from getting past him. A lot of charter services will use catamarans as their sailboat, as their boat of choice, because of the additional deck space and living space and all that stuff that it gives you. And then the last option, I think we need to turn left here. The last option that is available out there is a trimaran, which is basically, it's pretty much just like, if you take one of the catamaran hulls and put it in the middle, and then take two even smaller hulls and put them on either side of it and connect to those with the superstructure, that's a trimaran. So obviously, tri means three, it means it has three hulls. The benefit of the trimaran is that you get the, well, hold on. So the thing you need to understand about sailboats, the regular monohulls, that's the word, monohulls. The thing about monohulls, the ones with just one hull that, you know, is like the traditional type of boat, those have a tendency to tip over if you don't do something. Well, okay, I know I'm just kind of scattered around and I'm probably confusing some of you. So I'm talking about sailboats. I don't really personally have much of an interest in powerboats. Powerboats have a different way of controlling all of their things. So for the purposes of this discussion, I'm talking about sailboats. Okay, so I'm interested in sailing. I'm not really that interested in powerboats. So anyways, from a sailboat perspective, monohulls have a tendency to blow over if you don't do something to counteract that, because you have this big sheet on top of it trying to push the boat forward, or, you know, in many cases from the side. And if you don't have something to stop the wind from pushing the sail in a way that forces it over this way and then capsizes the boat, it's going to capsize. So all monohulls have some kind of heavy weight hanging down from the bottom of it, usually hanging down from the bottom of it from some kind of it's either like you'll have it like distributed along the bottom of the boat, or there'll be like a fin or something with a big heavy weight attached to the bottom of it, so that as the boat leans over, the weight kind of pushes back down and keeps the wind from knocking your boat over. Now the problem with that is that that's a lot of extra weight to add to your boat, and monohulls themselves just really sit pretty deep in the water for the most part, which makes them very slow. That's the big drawback. Well, that's one of the big drawbacks to monohulls, is that they're always going to be very slow because they have a maximum speed based off of the size of the boat itself. They're not able to be like a powerboat where they're able to kind of get up on top of the water and just kind of skip on top of it. They're just not capable of doing that because of the design and the weight and all of that stuff. It's just not going to happen. Most big catamarans have that same problem, but there are a lot of performance designed catamarans that are kind of able to lift themselves up out of the water a little bit, and they're able to have a much higher speed. Because they don't have all that extra weight from the, it's called, why am I not able to remember nautical terms right now? I know all of this stuff, it's just not coming to me. I don't think it's called a keel. It might be. I don't remember. Because the old big sailing ships all had keels, and the keel of the ship is supposed to be the spine going all the way down the bottom. I can't remember what the frickin' ballast is called for the sailboats. It's not coming to me, and it's just not going to come to me, because it's like a bar of soap. The more you try to grab it, the more it just kind of sits there and just does not want to cooperate. But anyways, it'll probably eventually come to me. It's probably called the keel, and I'm just like convincing myself that it's not. Let's take a second and look outside the truck here at this cool factory facility here that is probably processing something that smells really bad. If you've ever driven by facilities like that, you know what those smell like. But anyways, all that extra weight makes the sailboat sink into the water and makes it very slow, and it makes it so it can never go any faster than the maximum speed that hull design allows. There's a lot of technical stuff that you can get into when it comes to, you know, the performance of a sailboat. I know enough of it to be dangerous and not really to explain it to you, and it's pretty boring anyway, so I'm just not going to get into that. The point I'm trying to get to is that the monohull style sailboats have a very slow speed limit, generally less than 10 knots. There's very few monohulls that have the capability of going faster than 10 knots. And if you don't know what a knot is, it's comparable to a mile an hour. It's a little bit faster than a mile an hour, so it's not exactly comparable, but 10 knots is about 10 miles an hour. Catamarans, because they have a different type of hull, and because you have two hulls that are just kind of sitting together, like offset from each other, when the wind blows on the sail, it has a much harder time trying to lift that other hull out of the water and capsize your boat. So because they're spread out pretty far, so it needs a lot of force to be able to lift it over. Wind, unless you get into like hurricane force winds, there's no wind that's going to be powerful enough that it just knock over a catamaran willy-nilly. Like, you'd have to get like the right kind of wave with the right kind of wind, and then it finally has enough force to leverage to knock you over. The benefit of the catamaran is that it's much lighter weight, and because it's not getting sunk in the water, and depending on the design, you can actually get it up on a plane over the water, and that gets it out of the water more, which allows it to go faster. So there's a lot of there's a lot of catamaran designs, but there are several catamaran designs out there that are capable of doing upwards of 20 knots. Some of them can go even faster. But the big draw for the catamaran for most people is not the speed, it is the comfort. Because one of the things that most people who look at boats don't think about is just the fact that you're on the water and the water moves around. Well, when the water moves around, if you're on a monohull, you're going to be moving around a lot with that water. It's going to be swaying you back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people want the catamaran because it minimizes the left and right movement, and even kind of the forward-backward movement a little bit, but it minimizes the left. I can't pull into that station. There was nowhere for me to pull in over there. It minimizes the left and right movement a lot, which is actually the part that rolls the most because it's the thinnest part when you're on the water. And it just makes it more comfortable to be on it because the boat just doesn't sway around left to right nearly as much as a monohull would. So that's kind of one of the big benefits. It's comfortable from a being on the water standpoint, and then it's also comfortable from just the fact that it has a lot more space, and it can be configured in more of like an apartment style way rather than the cramped inside of a boat way. If you look at catamarans, you'll see that they look like the top level looks like a big main living room, and then inside the hulls will be like the bedrooms and the showers and stuff like that. But most people just kind of hang out in the main living room because it's up high. It gives you a nice view of everything around you, and it's configured very much like an apartment style living room kind of situation, which is really nice. Now, getting to the trimarans. The trimaran is kind of a compromise between both of those extreme options. So the trimaran doesn't need the heavy keel at the bottom because it has three hulls. It has multiple hulls just like the catamaran, and because it has a hull on either side of the main hull, that the flotation from that keeps the wind from pushing the boat over. And most of the time you only have two hulls in the water, so you're actually getting a lot less hull in contact with the water, creating drag and slowing you down. But the cool thing about the trimaran is that it sails very much like a monohull, but it has the speed and comfort of a catamaran from the water perspective. Now, because it's configured more like a monohull as far as like the living spaces and things like that, you're not going to get the extra crazy deck space and apartment style living and all that kind of stuff because it's not capable of doing that. But one of the drawbacks to the catamaran style design is that it doesn't have the same kind of control with the rudders and everything that a monohull would have. It just doesn't handle as well as a monohull would. Whereas a trimaran, because it's basically a monohull with a couple of outriggers on the side of it, it basically sails like a monohull. It has the sailing characteristics of a monohull, but the stability of a catamaran, and that's the great thing about it. So the biggest difference between catamarans and monohulls that most people will point out to you is that the monohull has a much better ability to point into the wind. If you don't know what I'm talking about, as counterintuitive as it sounds, sailboats are actually able to sail in the direction that the wind is coming from to a certain extent. Some sailboats are able to do it better than others. The way you can think about it is that if you think of the sail when it's facing in certain directions more like a wing and less like a parachute, the ability of the sail to create lift is caused by the wind going over both sides of the sail. And basically, because it's a curved surface just like the wing of an airplane, it creates a lift. It creates a suction kind of thing where it sucks the boat forward. And then the keel on the bottom of the sailboat is there partially because it creates resistance to the pushing force that's being applied to the side of the sail. And so you're getting a suction from the sail and a pushing from the sail, and then the keel keeps it from sliding sideways, and it forces you to go forward instead of kind of just sliding off to the side. So that's why monohulls have a much better ability to point into the wind, because they have that deep keel that goes deep in the water and helps to prevent sliding to the side. Catamarans, on the other hand, have a much shallower keel. They have much less of an ability to resist that sideways pushing that happens, and then so they're just not able to turn as far into the wind as a monohull would be able to. Look at that train driving by us. Look at that. Big fan of that. So let me pay attention here for a second, and then we'll continue talking about boats. I'm not sure what the road is doing here. I'm just making sure that we don't have to get off the freeway. Oh, welcome to Amarillo. Okay, I'm not sure why he decided he just needed to turn into me, but he decided to do that, so that was annoying. Hoping we can get past all of this stuff here, because I didn't turn into that guy. Oop, that was my fault. I didn't turn into that guy. He just decided that he was going to, change lanes into my trailer. That's another reason why I have. What's my speed set to? 65. It's another reason why I have penalties turned off, because sometimes the AI just does that, and it doesn't penalize the AI. It just charges you every time you get hit. So, anyways, man, we're getting really long into this episode. We're gonna have to find a place to stop here. So yeah. The reason why the trimaran works out pretty well is because the shape of the hull, and generally they have keel modification, better keels in the water. Basically allows them to point into the wind a lot better than a sailboat. All right, so I'm gonna have to finish up my speech here really quick, my talking here, because we're already we're almost at 30 minutes. The Grumman Albatross, switching over to aircraft, is a seaplane. You can go look it up on the internet if you're really interested in it. I don't know why I'm super interested in that particular model of seaplane. There's a bunch of different kinds of seaplanes out there. There's just something about the Grumman Albatross, the shape of the plane, the way it looks, and I don't know. There's just something about it that just speaks to me. I don't know what it is, but I also just kind of like the idea that you could basically turn it into a flying RV if you wanted to. I thought I put the speed back down to 60. You can basically just turn it into a flying RV if you wanted to. Like that would be one way to go. But yeah, that's where I'm. I know I went way in the weeds on the whole sailboat thing. There isn't really much to talk about with the Grumman Albatross. You can look it up on the internet. You'll see a picture of it. You'll get an idea of what it is. But when it comes to my dream aircraft, for whatever reason, that's the one I want. I like the idea of being able to take it anywhere. Like you could take it to the lake and hang out on the lake. You could take it to an airport and land there. You could take it to all kinds of places that you couldn't take a normal airplane. And because it has a relatively big interior that you could fit out with a living space and things like that, I don't know. It just appeals to me as a person who lives in a travel trailer. The idea of having a flying travel trailer, a flying RV, just sounds really cool to me. I don't know, but that's me. All right, so I don't know that we're going to find a place to stop off here. We are already at 30 minutes, and I need to be done with this episode for the day. So there's a gas station, it looks like, showing up on the GPS down there. For whatever reason, it's not centered though. So we're just going to go ahead and pull over to the side. I can't see enough to really find out what's going on, so we're just going to pull off here and call it a day. Hopefully you guys had lots of fun. Be sure to click the like button, subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Join as a member for early access to videos, among other perks, or you can just leave YouTube's version of a tip with the thanks button. Also have PayPal and Patreon links in the description if you prefer to go that route, because some people do like to go outside of the YouTube economy to help out with channels. So again, thanks for watching. Be sure to come back for the second half of our trip here out to Page, Arizona, and I'll see you then.